to an exciting first video episode here of the Mindful Marketplace on bizradio.us. I am your host, Joel Skene, and if this is your first time with us, on this program, we talk to the entrepreneurs, advisors, industry leaders, investors, and economic experts who are not only solving a market problem to make a profit, but who are also solving a social problem to make an impact. It's where we learn how to connect our money and our businesses to our values, our community, and ourselves. Today, I'm excited I'll get to be talking with Jeremiah Robinson, who is the entrepreneur in residence for Mountain Bizworks. And he also works with a fantastic organization called Neighborhood Economics. Man, I'm excited to get to talk to Jeremiah here. I met him, it's been a couple of years ago now here in the Asheville area. Jeremiah, first of all, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to dig in on a lot of stuff with you. We got to have your colleague and friend Kevin Jones from Neighborhood Economics on the show the last episode. And I've also gotten to speak with Matt Raker from Mountain Bizworks, one of the very first guests we ever had actually on this show.
Nice.
But I really am excited to get your perspective on things here. But could you first just share a little bit about your background? I know you started as an entrepreneur, but how did you get into this world of working in this, this community investment and solidarity economy?
Yeah, well, my background really started in the tech industry. So I worked in corporate IT for quite a while before being laid off from that, and really feeling like I wanted to kind of shift gears at that time, and had always kind of wanted to teach and start my own tech company. So I felt like after being laid off, that was the perfect time to take advantage of that opportunity. So I did both. I started teaching at a community college, teaching tech classes at AB Tech, and then also started my own web design company. Which really kind of grew from being a web design company to being a web hosting company, once Amazon Web Services launched. And then from that, it grew into being a cloud migration organization that supported supall businesses as well as local governments and migrating their technologies to the cloud. And just being an entrepreneur myself, and living in the Asheville area, I realized that there were not a lot of just medium or large size or larger scale Black owned businesses. As I living kind of growing up post college in the Raleigh Durham area and Charlotte areas, there were a lot of just successful Black owned businesses. But coming back to my hometown here in Asheville, I didn't see that. So, being here, I was just like, I really want to figure out why that is. And then try to figure out, is there something I can do about it to support these businesses get to a place where, they are able to scale. So came across this awesome opportunity at Mountain Bizworks. At the time, I had no idea what a CDFI even was.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just realizing, wow, I wish I had known what a CDFI was when I was trying to start my own business. And just having that support system would have, helped me would have kept me from making a lot of financial mistakes when I was getting started. So they had this opportunity to be an entrepreneur residence, which really just meant kind of working as a co-founder with other BIPOC businesses and supporting them to navigate the terrain of understanding how to get access to capital and educating themselves and understanding business finance and all the kind of intricacies that it really takes an entrepreneur to have at least a foundational knowledge around in order to be able to successfully start a business. So just kind of landed in my lap, just had that passion and had no idea what that looked like. And then just kind of just the stars just aligned. And, and I've been with the organization now for almost 4 years.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot in there that I want to unpack. You mentioned kind of what a CDFI is and kind of understanding that role in the community. You mentioned some of the barriers that a lot of BIPOC and just really any marginalized group faces when they are moving into entrepreneurship. I guess I'm curious for you though, like what was that like for you? Do you feel like you saw those same barriers that a lot of other people faced, or do you feel like you had a different journey? I'm curious what about that made you, what you experienced specifically that made you want to start giving back in that way?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things was just a lack of awareness. So not really knowing, again, just not knowing what a CDFI was, and not knowing that there was um, organizations that can support in accessing capital outside of just a traditional bank, right? Because a lot of traditional banks don't work with startups. They don't work with companies that don't have at least 2 years of financial history, and normally they won't do smaller size loans. So that really, and then they won't work with smaller companies that don't have personal collateral. So if you don't have a home that you can put up as collateral against the loan, that kind of cancels out your opportunities. If you don't have the best credit, that really cancels out your opportunities to work with larger financial institutions. So before BIPOC or marginalized community members can even get to the starting line, we're already kind of eliminated from those opportunities. So that's where a CDFI, or community development financial institution, really focuses is on when banks say no, the CDFI is there to really be able to support that step before you get to a bank. Um, so that was, so again, just kind of not having that awareness around what it took to even get capital from a bank, and then
Mhm.
learning about a CDFI and understanding that they oftentimes can you know have a more customized approach and a one-on-one relationship based approach to understand the specific needs of an entrepreneur, instead of just plugging some numbers into a computer and turning out yes or no. We really try to get to know the entrepreneur and understand the business model itself, and understand the entrepreneur's capacity to really start a business, and then be able to come up with a way to figure out how we can support that entrepreneur. Um, so some of the challenges that I faced in particular were again just the lack of awareness, not owning a home. I had great credit, but without that collateral piece, that it just wasn't going to make that an option. um, and then just not having the education around the financial side of business, right? I was running a business but had no idea what the actual financial opportunity of my business looked like. I was just kind of
Mhm.
just going with the flow, just making money and doing what I love. So that's where Mountain Bizworks was really critical, in that the organization provides access to financial capital, access to human capital as it relates to education, and then access to social capital as it relates to connecting you with
Mm.
the people and the connections that you need in order to actually scale your business, and to really prevent you from making costly mistakes, because now you have business coaches that you can bounce ideas and questions off of, rather than trying to go out and figure things out and do things on your own. Now you've got a trusted voice that has experience in your particular industry, that can help you to really navigate some of the challenges that you would have faced on your own otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me because I know for myself and for a lot of people that I know who are in business for themselves, you know, they started their own businesses and moved into entrepreneurship in some reason, in some way, because they weren't able to get what they wanted out of a regular, working for somebody else, whether that's a
Yeah,
W-2 or some other kind of connection there. And so it's like, well, if I truly want freedom in our current, world, in our current economy here, that I've got to kind of strike out on my own and, kind of create my own business. But there are all of these things that are necessary in order to create a business, in order to
for
create a
sure.
successful business, at least. You can have
Yeah,
one that doesn't do well, but you need a market, you need marketing, you need a lot of times capital, you
yeah,
need community support. And it sounds like what you're saying is, for a lot of people, that's not really, those things are not easily accessible.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so let's clearly define what a CDFI is. It's a community. I'm going to say it right. Community development financial institution, right? Help
yeah,
help unpack what that means, because I know you've kind of compared it to a bank. You compared it to, you've mentioned coaching. Kind of what role does that
yeah.
CDFI really play in the community and in the entrepreneurial community, specifically for those people who want to start their own business but face some of those barriers, and maybe they don't have friends and family that can lend them money?
Yeah. Yeah. So when, kind of going back to that piece about the friends and family, right? Normally when you're starting a business, you might, have your own money that you're using. So you're bootstrapping, trying to get things going and, get a feel for the landscape. And then, after you start to grow a little bit, you might reach out to friends and family, rich aunt, uncle, whatever, to try to get some more capital. And then from there, that the CDFI is kind of the next step, right? So it's a step before the bank and the step after the friends and family. So it's really, kind of bridging that gap between those two spaces. But one thing that kind of sets Mountain Bizworks apart from other CDFIs is that in addition to that financial capital, we also offer the learning side of things. So we have
Mm.
classes that can support entrepreneurs in any stage of their business. So whether it be them just kind of having an idea, wanting to put together a business plan. We've got a 6 weeks long business planning class that folks can get plugged into. We've got classes on, the financial side of things, understanding, business finance, and then understanding how to use QuickBooks. Classes on marketing. We've got, cohort based classes that kind of like a year long program for existing entrepreneurs of color. We've got classes on like how to invest. What does investment look like for your organization or for your small business? So just that educational piece and for it really. And then we got classes for folks that are ready to scale or already at a scaling point. So it's like, hey, I've already had a lot of success. Now I just need to figure out how to scale that and really expand on what I'm doing. So again, just a ton of classes and opportunity for entrepreneurs, no matter what level their business is at. And then on top of that, we have over 70 coaches, which can provide one-on-one support for folks that are like, hey, I've gone through this class. Now I just need to kind of tighten up my business plan. I just need to sit down with one person that I can bounce ideas off of, or just get some clear direction from. So again, just kind of providing that full wraparound service for the entire entrepreneurial experience. Because what we don't want to happen is that we just give folks money and then they're like, oh well, I have no idea what to do with this money, right? So we want to make
Yeah.
sure that they feel supported and they feel confident about what they're going to use that funding for, and then too on the back end to make sure that they feel confident about being able to pay back that loan when that time comes.
Yeah, because that's typically what happens is people just kind of get a check and then, they have to figure the rest out all on their
Yep.
own. We had on
Yeah.
Veronica Edwards, who's also a Biz Radio host. She's a CPA, and she
Hmm.
talked about how she actually spends some of her extra time outside of work, outside of her extracurricular time with Mountain Bizworks, helping
Yeah.
coach new business owners on that financial piece, because that's one of the parts that a lot of people love what they do. They love making a certain product or they've got a certain service that they can do really well, but managing all that the financial piece, the CF, kind of being your own CFO, as
Yeah.
well as your own
Yeah.
marketing person, as well as your own product designer, as well as all of that can be, some of that can get lost if you don't put an attention on it. Um,
For
do
sure.
you
And
have
it's
any
one of the
like
biggest pieces.
particularly? Oh, go ahead, finish that.
No, no, I was going to say it's one of the biggest gaps that I see with folks, regardless of what stage their business is in. Right, it's just not having a clear understanding of how to manage their finances, their business
Hmm.
finances, and oftentimes, I see folks that don't have that separation between personal and business. Right, so they're
Yep.
commingling funds and just really don't understand what their business actually looks like from a financial perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. With
So
the
those
clients
having
that I
those
work with.
classes,
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to
having
say
those
with the
classes
clients
is
that I
key.
work with around. Yeah. 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 Sorry, we're getting a little lag there. But
Right.
with a lot of the clients I work with are business owners who have gone into debt, and who are now looking to pay that debt off. And we're trying to shorten their time frame from it taking them 20 or
Mhm.
30 years to pay off that debt to, 5 to 10 years to pay that off. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious if you have any particular things that you've seen that you've overseen, any particular success stories or times where you've really seen someone be able to overcome those barriers because of that coaching and because of that support.
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with one guy that comes to mind. When we probably met over a year and a half ago, and he was just really getting started with his business. And he came to me and said, "Hey, I don't have a business plan yet, and I don't know where to start. I know I probably gonna need some funding to get things going. I don't know how much money I need." So he really just had a ton of questions and a strong passion for the work that he was kind of doing as a side hustle.
Mm.
Um, so, once we sat down and talked, I said, you should really, really take advantage of the Foundations business planning class, so that way you can get some things down on paper, get your ideas down on paper. And then, in that Foundations class, one of the most important pieces that they work on is creating financial projections. So understanding, you know, over the course of the first year of your business, what are you going to charge for your services or your products, and what is it going to cost you to actually run this business for a year? Um, so, going through that, he was really able to, figure out what his pricing model should look like. And then and to really get a solid business plan on paper. And then, which meant that he was now ready to go back and have a conversation with a lender to talk about how much money he might actually need to get started.
Mm.
And not only get started, but to also sustain the business for at least that first 6 months, where he's really trying to ramp things up until he can get to a point of breaking even.
Mhm.
So, having that conversation with the lender, I remember talking to him afterwards, and him, just talking about how intimidating it was at first, because there were a lot of terms that he didn't understand about balance sheets and profit and loss statements, and understanding his own personal taxes and his business taxes. So there were a lot of, just unknowns, for him coming into coming to Mountain Bizworks initially. But then he went on to, have that conversation with the lender, and really over the course of a few months, to work through the underwriting process and get his, QuickBooks set up, and really get, those financial systems in place, so that he could understand what his business was going to look like going forward. And then from there, he went on to take a marketing class to understand who his exact target market is. And then from there, he went on to join what we call the Catalyst cohort, which is, my program, which is a year-long program where folks can set. In the beginning, we sit down and we set strategic goals about what you want your business to look like for the next year. Um, and then, so we have about 10 entrepreneurs in this group, and they each hold each other accountable as they're sharing their goals, normally around money, marketing, and management.
Mhm.
Each person has their own goals, and then they work together to really keep each other accountable and keep each other moving towards achieving those goals. Um,
Yeah.
so, just seeing him go through that process, set those goals, and then to work with the group to make sure that they get achieved. And then now he is in position. Well, now he's actually a Mountain Bizworks coach. So now he's
Oh,
helping
that's
other
awesome.
clients do what he did. And now he's also going to be a facilitator for the next cohort that we start next year.
That's awesome. We do have to take a break here. This is a two-part episode, so please tune in again to part two of this conversation with Jeremiah. We're gonna dig in a lot more on his work with neighborhood economics. So until next time, subscribe online, listen to us on Biz Radio and the other hosts, and we'll look forward to seeing you here back next week. Thanks so much for being on, Jeremiah, and for everyone out there, take care of yourself and take care of someone else.
Thanks, Joel.